but national security, all kinds of areas that this story is involved in. Apple, of course, as you've heard by now, taking on the FBI, saying it will fight a recent court order that the tech giant received to break open an iPhone used by one of the San Bernardino shooters. Now, we've got all the angles of this story covered for you right now. Eamon Javers is covering the responses from Washington, D.C., presidential candidates as well. Josh Lipton has details of how Apple and Silicon Valley are reacting. And Jane Wells has reaction from families impacted by those deadly shootings in San Bernardino. But Eamon, why don't you start us off from our nation's capital?
Yeah, Bill, we're starting to get political fallout to this national standoff here between Apple and the FBI. We're starting to get some of these presidential candidates weighing in. Donald Trump earlier today on Fox, here's what Trump had to say. He said, I agree 100% with the courts. I think security overall, we have to open it up and we have to use our heads. So Trump siding with the U.S. government here over Apple. Also, we have a statement here from Marco Rubio. He's equivocating a little bit more. What Rubio says is this is going to require us to work very closely with the tech industry to find a solution. I believe there is one. And then, of course, over at the White House, we had the press secretary, Josh Earnest, weighing in from behind the podium as well. Here's what he said.
Obviously, the Department of Justice and the FBI can count on the full support of the White House as they conduct an investigation to learn as much as they possibly can about this particular incident.
And I don't know if he counts as a politician, guys, but Edward Snowden tweeted in from Russia backing Apple in all of this. So that's where the political landscape is as of right now.
Eamon, thank you. Let's head over to Josh Lipton for how Apple is reacting to all of this. Josh.
Well, Kelly, Apple CEO Tim Cook mincing no words in this showdown with the government. He is going to fight this court order. We can find no precedent for an American company being forced to expose its customers to a greater risk of attack. Cook writing, doing so would hurt only the well-meaning and law-abiding citizens who rely on companies like Apple to protect their data. Now, Apple's basically saying that the government wants it to create new code that would circumvent critical features of iPhone security. In other words, a master key that could open the terrorist's phone. Apple's position is that once it has this key, the government could use it again and again, and perhaps another bad actor could replicate it. Others are also asking what could be the implications in foreign countries. If the Chinese know that the FBI has this key, for example, how would they feel about iPhones being sold in their country? Now, this tension between national security and privacy we know has become a big issue. It's often pitting Silicon Valley against the government, and that tension has only increased since that deadly terrorist attack in San Bernardino. Even the usually outspoken John Legere, the CEO of T-Mobile, told our own Jim Cramer that he doesn't know the right answer.
He's in a really, really difficult spot. I mean, obviously, what we've got is a unheralded situation where he's being requested to help, authorities deal with the security of the device. And we'll see where it goes. I wouldn't know how to advise him.
Now, so far, the response from Silicon Valley tech giants today has been silence. Alphabet, Facebook, and Twitter all either declined comment or didn't respond to requests for comment. Bill, back to you.
All right, Josh, thank you very much. And by the way, whether you agree with him or not, I would encourage everybody to read the entirety of Tim Cook's response to this. It's a very well thought out argument, and I think people tend to pull out certain tidbits and use that either for or against the argument. If you read the whole thing, you might have a different opinion, but that's just my thought on that. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But let's get to the San Bernardino area where the families of the shooting victims are also speaking out today, and Jane Wells has details on that. Jane?
Bill, they may feel one way in Cupertino down here in San Bernardino. Well, I bet you can figure the families are not going to be buying any more Apple phones. The FBI wants this information for a lot of reasons. They want to know if the two killers had help, if they'd been planning other attacks in the area, and where they were during an 18-minute gap in movements on the day of the slaughter in December. Local station CNBC spoke with Arlen Verda, who lost his wife, Benyata Betabal, in the massacre.
I'm very upset that Apple is not assisting the federal government. People's life matter. It could reduce other incidences. And any assistance that they could help with the federal government in finding what's behind those phones is a big help.
Their son celebrated his 11th birthday yesterday. Many people on Twitter are outraged, saying Tim Cook should be ashamed. At N23MC says if another 9/11 type event occurs and the contact info of one of the terrorists is on that phone, would Tim Cook still be proud? But some support Apple's decision, questioning why the NSA can't do this itself and what the FBI's real motive may be. At Bruce Dederick tweets, sounds like the FBI wants a universal tool to be used at their discretion. And our poll right now on CNBC.com currently is favoring Apple. Guys, back to you.
All right, Jane, thank you very much. So the question becomes, is giving the government access to this terrorist's phone a matter of national security, or is it a privacy issue?
Well, here to shed some light on this, Steve Rogers joins us, formerly with the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force and an ex-military intelligence officer. Also with us, Dave Chronister, founder of Parameter Security and an ethical hacker who has trained federal agencies and agents. Good to have you both with us. Steve, we'll just begin with that last comment Jane said, which is, what is the FBI's real motive here? Does it just want a universal tool? Should, in this particular case, Apple allow access to the phones? What would you say to that?
Look, the question that needs to be answered and should be answered in this way. What we are asking Apple to do is what is in the best interest of the American people and not in the best interest of their company. Look, you know, when the government goes out, and I was part of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, we encouraged every American to stand up, to speak out, and to say something and do something about terrorism. Apple is being asked to step up on behalf of the American people, and I think they're slightly mistaken. If they think that the majority of the American people are on their side, they ought to take a poll and understand that people want their kids safe, they want their parents safe, they want to be safe. And in this case, if there's information in that phone that could keep them safe, well, they better darn cooperate with the government.
Dave, Tim Cook's argument in part is that Apple would essentially have to create a whole new operating system to create this master key to be able to unlock this iPhone that the FBI is trying to get into. Is that the case, especially when you're just considered all they want is access to this one phone? Do they really have to kind of reinvent the wheel to be able to do that?
They do, and really what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to get rid of a delay. Right now, Apple devices are designed that if you put the code in too many times in a certain amount of time, it erases the iOS. Now, one thing I would respond to about this is, well, I don't think anybody here is invalidating the problems with the attacks, but I think the key that Tim Cook is getting down to here is we have given up personal safety. We've given up personal liberties for safety. We've given up with the Patriot Act, with NSA being able to do meta collection, with national security letters, and this terrorist act still happened. Apple, Microsoft, and a lot of these tech giants have been forced in secret courts to actually give up data. This is a line in the sand. I think what he's saying is this is more than just one phone.
Right, but Steve, so, and again, I don't know if this is necessarily something you can speak to, but the issue here is, look, for hundreds of years, we've had to deal with the balance between privacy and security. What is new or different about smartphones now in this long history of what the law speaks to already?
What is new and what is different is that we are at war. We weren't at war 20 years ago. We're living in extraordinary times where the battlefield is no longer in a desert and a jungle. It's coming to our streets, and it's an electronic war. It's cyber war. This is why we need the help of corporations like Apple. Look, we're talking about one phone in this case. I happen to trust the people that I used to work with. Look, I get it. I get it about privacy. I don't want anybody snooping into my life. But I've got to share something with you that in these extraordinary times, in this new type of warfare, every American person and company has to come together, or we're not going to have a country left. And I mean that. These people are vicious. They're killers. They will use every single means to bring this country down. So I would hope that Mr. Cook and Apple would rethink this and take this action.
A big fear, Steve, of Apple and others who are in favor of him is that any master key created by Apple could get into the wrong hands. Then you've opened a Pandora's box. Can you guarantee that that wouldn't happen?
I could never guarantee that.
Well,
I don't think
isn't that the problem then?
Anyone could. Yeah, it's a problem. But, you know, sometimes you have to take a risk in life. Sometimes for the good of the people and for national security reasons, we have to do this. Listen, these are legitimate concerns.
In the same case, I guess, sir, that you would be willing to give up gun rights and for the safety of people that are shot every year.
Look, that's ridiculous. All right, we're talking about an issue regarding a terrorist
to
give us gun rights.
Go ahead, Steve. Steve, go ahead.
Look, that's ridiculous. These are mixing apples and oranges. We're talking about an individual who may have critical information on their phone that will protect American citizens from being killed. Period.
Dave, one thing that I'm struck by is that the willingness of those who are in favor of Apple to broaden this out tremendously, to make this a huge national security issue, and fears about security, getting into the wrong hands and things like that. What do you say to those who say this is just about this one phone? They want access to this shooter's phone, and that's all they're after. That is all the judge ruled on yesterday, access to this one phone. What's wrong with that?
Once this program is created, you cannot tell me that law enforcement will not want to use this over and over and over again. The other issue
Can we take it on a case-by-case basis?
Yes, you could. Yes, you could. And yes, you could take it on a case-by-case basis.
Let me finish. Do you really think I trust my employees, but I'm not going to put a weapon out there that someone malicious could use? Tim Cook's not only worried about law enforcement using this and abusing this, he's worried about what if this gets out to people that shouldn't have access to it? What if the Chinese get access to this? The thing that Tim Cook needs to understand that a lot of people don't understand, it still seems today, is that everybody can get hacked.
Steve, let me just ask a final question.
Once the nuclear bomb was created by the United States,
Yep.
it was created by everybody else.
Hang on, guys. Steve, one final question before we do have to go here. Why shouldn't the U.S. just ban encrypted smartphones?
Well, you know what? Because that, I believe, would damage, the individual privacy rights and how we use our phones. The point is here, you hit the nail on the head. This is one phone. It could be done on a case-by-case basis. So Apple needs to step up and do what's right for the American people.
Well, it's a thorny issue, to say the least. That's an understatement. Gentlemen, thank you both for your respective points of view.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And we'll have more on this story coming up as well.
You bet.
About 45 minutes to go here. Checking in on markets, Dow's at 250 points today. Another sharp rally. We're watching to see if the S&P, Bill, as you mentioned, can hold a 1% gain. It's up 1.6% at the moment. The Nasdaq's up 2%.
And despite this three-day rally, one of our next guests says that investors should remain cautious. And he'll tell you why when we come back.
And oil still popping today, but down more than 40% over the past year. Falling oil prices have crushed the crude by rail